good evening, and welcome to Season 2 of the T-Dub Diaries. You guys have been waiting for this one since T-Dub Review 4, and this time, it's for real. So here we are, Season 2. I am currently driving a 2006 Porsche 911 Carrera S. This car belongs to the generation of 911 known as the 997. The car comes with a flat 6 motor that is rated at 355 horsepower. This car has a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is a hugely refreshing thing going from my automatic semi-manual GTI. Oftentimes when people review a 911, they go on and on about how nostalgic the car is and how organic it feels on the road. How when you're screaming through a mountain pass, it sounds like a wolf crying out to its pack of other wolves. The gear shift is so slick, and it's just a euphoric feeling. Well, I'm not going to tell you anything different. This 911 is the There's something about these cars that gets under your skin and stays there. The Porsche 911 has been in production since 1964, and every single one of those years, it has been on the absolute top of its game. For one, it has a rear engine setup, which to many people seems quite unconventional, but to Porsche, they believe it's the perfect setup. Why? Well, if the engine is over the rear axle, it means that you get incredible traction and really good handling. Now, it's not handling without a cost, because if you get this rear end hanging out around a corner, you better know what you're doing with the throttle and the brake, because it will come around on you. The 911 is an instrument of performance. You take one of these on a track, and you will not only have a blast driving it, but it will reward you in so many ways. Seeing as I am sitting behind an 80-year-old woman in a Lincoln who doesn't want to go fast, I think now would be a really good time to talk about why I like Porsche so much. You see, I was the biggest hater of the Porsche 911 for the longest time. As a 10-year-old, I used to go to Kroger with my mom, and I would look at all the car magazines. I would look at the pictures and see the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and all of these exotic cars. And for whatever reason, there was always a Porsche 911 in the test. I didn't understand it. I thought, why in the world do people like these cars so much that look like a Volkswagen Beetle? In the words of Jeremy Clarkson, the Porsche 911 is nothing more than a Volkswagen Beetle in running shoes. I agreed with him, being a 10-year-old who knew nothing about cars. One day this all changed for me. My mother was getting groceries, and I was looking at the magazines like any other day, when I saw on the cover of Road and Track 3 cars. A red Ferrari Enzo, a Ford GT, and another car. I didn't know what it was, so I opened up the magazine and looked, and I kept seeing Porsche Carrera GT, Porsche Carrera GT. In my mind, I couldn't believe that such an incredible looking car could be a Porsche, but it was. And that's when it all changed for me. You see, the Carrera GT was in a league of its own. It was the most beautiful thing that my eyes had ever seen until I saw the first Fantastic Four movie with Jessica Alba. The Carrera GT changed it for me. From then on, I started paying attention to the 911, and I started realizing why it was so good. The performance was always underrated by Porsche. One of the things that they are famous for is saying that they have less power and their 0 to 60 times are slower than they actually are. Why is this? Well, it's so that anyone can get in their cars and achieve the numbers that they state. Simple as that. A lot of times what this means is when journalists go on a test of the car, they end up finding that Porsche's cars are a lot faster than the competition, because the competition rates their cars to compete with the numbers that Porsche puts out, and then they're just not as fast. I'm stuck behind a cement truck. He's dropping gravel on the road. Why do I like this car? I like this car for the same reasons that every other journalist in the world likes them. They're just that good. There is something about changing gears by yourself, being in total control of a car that wants you to just push its limits. This is a car that you get in and it says, all right, I have the capability to do many amazing things. You might not, but let's get there. You see, I learned how to drive stick on this very 911. Now, when I say learned, I stalled out the car a couple times in my neighborhood, and then my dad said, you gotta go learn somewhere else. But it was a motivator. I ended up meeting a friend in college who taught me how to drive stick on a Mini Cooper S, which was great. And then I came home and I said, Dad, I can drive stick. Let me drive the 911. And he did. Something that sets the 911 apart from any other sports car is its practicality. There's 2 seats in the back for your children who happen to be paraplegic. There's a nice amount of space in the front because your engine's in the rear that you can store stuff and things. Gas mileage is pretty stellar for what it is. For the most part, it's a quiet car until you get on it. If you press the sport button down there that firms up the suspension, that's when it gets a little bumpier. But other than that, hang on a second. I'm gonna have to get on it a little bit here because I'm in the front. Let's just talk about the noise and the power. How about we do that? This car howls. It howls. Above 5,000 RPM, this car comes alive. Down low, you can feel that the car wants to go faster. It's fine at low RPM, but it's sort of like, okay, let's get there. It's a little bit giddy. Okay, let's go. Once you get past that 4,000, 5,000 range, that's when you're getting all your power. And it just screams and screams and screams. There's nothing like a manual gear change in a stick shift 911. There's just nothing like it. Am I a fanboy? Yes. Next question. I think it's also important to note that this car has been around for as long as it has, and it's been successful for as long as it has, because Porsche believes in evolution. They believe that they can take this car into each new generation and continue improving on it. The 911 has seen many manufacturers and many different cars from those manufacturers slip and fall through the years trying to be like this. The Nissan GT-R, for example, was developed at the Nürburgring with a 911 turbo. Let that sink in. Nissan had a 911 turbo on the track with them at all times to try to make the Nissan better. Did they make it faster? Yes, they did. Did they give it an Ultima interior? Yes, they did. I'm not going to pay 80 grand for a Nissan GT-R that'll go really fast in a straight line when I could have this car for the same money and people won't look at me like I'm a total dork. Say what you will about speed and performance. It's a great feeling surging through gears and going fast in a straight line. It's another thing entirely to be able to walk out to your car and go, that's really nice. And the 911 has that factor. People watch this car. People look at this car. What don't I like about this car? I don't own it. That's what I don't like about this car. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of the T-Dub Diaries. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my time with this car.